Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Phil HD playing in the Tier 6 German medium tank. It is the VK3001P. Now this vehicle was substantially changed many patches ago and for the better really. This tank is quite a performer now, and it's just such a shame that it leads on to the Tiger P, or as I like to call it, the Tiger percentage of my soul that I lose every single time I play the tank, because it's that underwhelming. Once you've learned the weak points on the side of the Tiger P's hull. I was going to say Ferdinand there for a second, because of course those two vehicles share the same hull weakness. Then it's just such an easy vehicle to penetrate, and even for equal tiered tanks with 200mm of pen, you're still pretty darn likely to go through either the turret or the front of the hull. So that just makes it so underwhelming for me to play that vehicle. And again, this is the only way to play the VK3001P, to go on towards the Panzer VII, the tier 10 German heavy tank that hardly anyone has really, or at least aims to play. Because again, that vehicle has a horrible side weak point whenever you try to side scrape the tank. It seems very weird to me that they would make the Super Conqueror immune when it side scrapes, but they wouldn't do it for a rear mounted German heavy tank. I don't even understand what's going on there. But the result is that I guess this is just a line that a lot of people forget about and don't really try to grind their way up. And do you know what? The VK3001 has a lot of things going for it. Firstly, 8 degrees of gun depression and a short 88mm with 220 alpha damage and 145mm of penetration on its standard rounds. Also, while the shell wasn't avoided from the tier 8 tank destroyer there, that with like 240mm of pen, this vehicle does have some pretty nice armor for a tier 6 medium tank. We're talking about 75 on the front of the hull, 65 on the side of the hull. Sorry, did I say 7? Yeah, 62 on the side of the hull, I must correct myself. And so that means you can kind of side scrape in this vehicle. Side scrape out, bounce a shot, then come round and hopefully penetrate the enemy tank. And the fact that the vehicle isn't even really that slow either, with a fairly decent power to weight ratio of 17.53 and a top speed limit of 60 kilometers an hour, is there anything this tank really can't do? Also DPM rather exceptional, nearly 2000 at tier 6. It's going to give that Cromwell a run for its money. Maybe not so much something like a Cromwell Berlin, just for the sake of the fact that you can put in a crew into it. And I'd probably rather play the tier 7 German / American premium medium tank as well, that Panther M10, the cosplay Panther, because again I can make some credits and some crew training while I play it. But if you're looking for a free-to-play tank around about tier 6 to maybe just get in and have a little bit of a go around the battlefield with, then you might want to be checking this tank out. Statistically it seems to be very strong and quite forgotten, but maybe not that forgotten considering there's one on the enemy team as well. So there are 2 inside this matchup, and they both seem to be played by fairly okay players. They're kind of like mirroring each other's statistics here. Oh, Phil HD just narrowly misses being taken out the game there as he puts one into the VK, but the VK doesn't manage to get him. The VK bounces off his gun, but he penetrates the tank. Wow, with 158 hit points, Phil, you were really taking pretty much a 50-50 whether you would bow out early in this game. Nevertheless, Phil has still had a substantial role in this game from here. 872 damage and 1,445 spotting. I'd call that a really good game for a tier 6 tank. This position a bit precarious if the enemy tank destroyers locate around here, but luckily there weren't any tanks there, so that has allowed Phil to pitch up on that slope and rain down hell upon his opponents. Okay, so having left the crest of the hill, Phil now decides to take the fight to the rear of the enemy tanks here. He's going to try and target the Skoda T40 first. There you go, right into the hull. Great shot there. And now the T29 turns his tank around. Well, of course, if the T29 turns his tank around, surely that's going to allow the Ferdinand to push forward. So great stuff, Phil, here, knowing that you've got to try and get a pincer attack. And he's zooming out. I guess he's using some kind of a mod pack with a zoom out mod there to be able to look to see where the Tiger P was aiming. And I like what he's doing here. Is he trying to bluff before he goes back? Oh no, he's not actually bluffing before he goes back. He's going to leave the Ferdinand to fight the T29. But he's keeping an eye on them. So the artillery just narrowly misses taking Phil out of this game. Takes his tracks off, and now Phil is down to 71 hit points, and there's still a lot of tanks left on the enemy team. Some artillery hits the T29 and the Ferdinand. Not exactly sure which artillery that was from what team. But nevertheless, Phil is now in a great position to be able to finish off the T29. And once again, it looks like artillery just don't give a darn as the GW Tiger P on the enemy team destroys the Ferdinand, but also does a little bit of collateral damage to the T29. then again, considering that Phil was behind that T-29, that T-29 was pretty much out the game, but I'm not sure if that artillery was even taking that into consideration. Don't you just absolutely hate artillery that don't seem to give a darn when you're in close quarters combat with another tank and they're just going to fire anyway? Nevertheless, Phil has to try and protect his artillery in this game if he wants to stand a chance of getting through this 3 versus 6, and 2 of the vehicles on his team are artillery. Well, that'll be a great start. Oh, lovely 50-50 roll there, managing to do 220 damage to the Poodle. Puts him in this one. Now it is going to be a 1 versus 5 with the final artillery on Phil's team going down, and he slams a shell into the side of the T-34-85, that tier 6 Soviet medium tank, which now knows where Phil is, using obviously the gun direction indicator or the fire direction indicator. But great marksmanship there by Phil as he shuts the T-34-85 down before he even manages to close the distance. And that's such an important shutdown there, because that means that the T-34-85 is not going to be able to spot Phil out in the open, at least be able to get the jump, as his 6th sense did go off, and now we hear the artillery barrage landing to the left or the right. And is there going to be one more possibly up on the ridge? No? Thank goodness. Okay, Phil's still in it. But if he had allowed that T-34-85 to close the distance and spot him without Phil actually executing him before the spot happened, so to say, while the shell was in the air, obviously he gets illuminated, spotted, and then the artillery comes down, it would be much worse. So now Phil is going to be dealing with some Soviet tanks and Soviet tank destroyers, well, 1 German tank destroyer as well, that are all very, very blind. Their view range is absolutely awful. One of the worst things about the KV-2 is that you're not going to be able to spot your opponents at mid to long ranges, and for artillery at least, until you start to get to about tier 9 and 10 and you whack a binocular telescope on it, you're not going to be able to spot your opponents either. So the GW Tiger P manages to sneak his way just behind the building, and I'm not sure if he will ever know just how lucky he was. Nevertheless, a relocation at the last minute does keep that tier 8 German self-propelled gun in the game, and that's one of my favorite things about this replay, is that this isn't just Phil ruffle stomping on some tier 6 4 and 5 opponents. This is Phil trying to get through these tier 10 matchups, right? And having shut down the Borsig earlier on, at least played a part in his death. He didn't have to deal with the ISM, but he fought valiantly against the T-29. He's had a real good round here into not the best matchups. He's not playing a premium tank either, and those are the kind of games that I want to feature on this channel. Now he's using his good knowledge of the KV-2's view range here, or it being very, very blind, to put 2 shots into the KV-2 in the cap circle. But considering that there's something still in there, that means that it must be an artillery. So Phil's trying to find a shot into the top of the GW Tiger P. Is he going to be able to find it? Yes, he is. Good shot there. 213 hit points left on the vehicle though, as it reverses its way around the corner. Okay, Phil, what are you going to do? Who are you going to pay attention to? Surely you don't want to get caught out. Sure, it's only 3 artillery and there aren't any tanks left on the enemy team, but if you do get spotted, there's still going to be at least 2 of them that are going to be able to try and shoot you at the same time. Okay, Phil's got to be careful. He's knocking down some cover here. I don't like knocking down the fences when there's artillery. Eagle-eyed artillery, knowing his last known location, or at least where the shell had come from, will probably be looking for that kind of thing to either just get a bit of information as to where he's traveling to, or alternatively just blind fire that location with the knowledge that something has been destroyed. Okay, is Phil going to go towards the cap circle? No, he's not, and I feel this is where he makes one of the best decisions of this round. If he was to just go in there blind, he'd have to probably put 2 shots into whatever self-propelled gun is inside the cap circle to be able to take it out. Now, of course, while he's reloading his second shot, or even if the artillery just turns himself towards him and fires in like a tank destroyer direct fire mode, he's going to be taken out. An artillery shell could land pretty much anywhere within 2 meters of his tank, and with 71 hit points, he's not going to live to tell about it, or at least he's not going to live to be able to get through this battle and see if he can pick up a Radley Walters medal. Wow, 6 kills here, Phil. Affirmative. Okay, obviously people are pinging the cap circle like, hey, did you forget that, yep, they're capping, where are you going, buddy? Well, he's obviously flanking, right? Come on, guys, give him a bit of credit. He's the one carrying you. Don't need to patronize him by pinging the cap circle and alerting him to what's going on. Phil is in complete control of this game. Well, I think that might be of an exaggeration. Maybe not complete control, because, you know, whenever there's artillery involved in a situation like this, it's kind of just hoping that they don't manage to get that first shot on you. Okay, so some player decides that he likes Phil enough to send him a bit of a friend's request. Oh no, not a friend's request, a platoon request. It's always unusual for me to hear that because obviously being in my situation, I kind of have to turn that off, otherwise I get quite a few of them each battle. Okay, so having sneak around, flanked, Phil now has the back of the Su-8. Great stuff. One shell in. Will he hit the second one? Oh no, the shell flies high. Yes, when you're not actually aiming at the place where you need to shoot, you probably need to drop the reticle down a little bit there, but he's got to loop it over the ridgeline. Will he do so? No, he doesn't. And the Su-8 has turned the self-propelled gun around. This is all dangerous stuff. No, the shell doesn't go in. 18 seconds left on the game now, Phil. You do not have much time to mess around considering another artillery has joined the Su-8 inside the cap circle. But that should be in. There you go. Slam dunk. One artillery taken out. And Phil finds where the Su-14-1 is. Okay, the Su-14-1 is going to be turning his gun around towards Phil. He puts one, looks like, into the gun there, but obviously that still counts as a hitbox on this tank. Will Phil be able to hit the second shot? Yes, he does! Great stuff. 1 versus 5 now becomes a 1 versus 1, and he knows where the GW Tiger P was, and he also knows that GW Tiger P is down to a single shot. This is starting to get to be the edge of your seat stuff. 8 kills in, 2,750 damage and 1,445 spotting in a tier 6 tank in the worst possible matchup, and Phil hasn't even really dabbed the 2 key that much in this game. Well, oh. Phil, come on, you don't need to against the artillery. Well, then again, I guess he'll have the extra shell velocity, and I guess the high tier German self-propelled guns are amongst the most heavily armored of any of them, right? I guess he's just doing it for the shell velocity, but I would be so nervous if I was in Phil's situation here. There's only one tank, or shall I say vehicle, left between him and a fantastic victory. Come on, buddy, you've got to pick up that Kolobanov's medal, or is this going to be a horrible heartbreak? I don't like driving into bushes when I know that artillery is sneaking around them. Come on, Phil, he's slowed right down. He goes over the ridge very, very, very slowly, as if he's hunting some horrible German rabbit right now. And there you go, GW Tiger P doesn't see Phil. He shuts him down. Great stuff, buddy. So Phil picks up a Radley Walters medal here for his 9 kills in this game, and also the one that everybody wants, the Kolobanov's medal for standing alone against at least 5. He also gets a Dimitriu's medal for killing all 3 enemy self-propelled guns, and a Defender medal for protecting his cap circle against them, and a high caliber medal in the worst possible match, making 3,232 damage. A very respectable game, and look at that base experience points, 1,953. That would be an ace tanker if it was that much experience with a premium account, let alone it being base. And Phil makes a cool 30,000 credits profit even without a premium account. What an all-round class replay. And thank you, Phil, for showing off one of the hidden gems of World of Tanks by the looks of it, in the form of this tier 6 German medium tank. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And this week, 804 of you voted, and there was one clear winner in the form of the tier 10 Czechoslovakian medium tank, the TVP T50/51. So come along right now as I showcase the only Czechoslovakian branch in the game, starting from tier 1 and working my way up towards tier 10, so you can see if it's a line that's maybe worth grinding, or alternatively, if you already have the tanks, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.